I think today people worry a lot about the world, about the economy, China economy in the world, but I'm a very optimistic. When people start to worry, that is the opportunity is. Right? I worry about the blood testing, and she created good things. And I think great innovations, great companies always happen in the tough times. Life's like the music. You have up, you have a down, you have a long, you have a short notes. And I like the American movie. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get, right? So I'm pretty optimistic. The opportunity in the future for equality is huge, because in the last century, the IT is for big companies. The globalization is for big companies. But now with the technology, we can serve those 80% of the companies that have never been served. We can serve the 80% of the young people that have never been served. Technology for internet is so cheap, so easy to use. One of the reasons why we grow in China e-commerce so fast, much faster than the USA, because our infrastructure of commerce in China was too bad. When it is too bad, something happens and goes. Today we are working on the rural areas of China. I can never imagine that China, about 800 million people still live in the rural areas, are farmers. And there are about close to 200 million people. Their income is less than $1 per day. And before the internet, it's impossible for these guys to reach the PC because it's so difficult. Even people like me, I don't know how to use a PC. But now, 80% of the farmers, those people using mobile phones. When I have the mobile phones, the internet, the data, things change a lot. So I'm excited about the future. People always worry. I love the young kids sitting there and talking about the dream, their hopes, because if they have the hope, we have the hope. That's what I believe.
And let's just take what you do. And I've loved every description I've ever heard about how you serve people, and your story about the bamboo farmers and your wife and her friends. It was fabulous. But where's this going? What are you going to do? What are your plans to maximize the use that people in remote rural areas of China can make of their cell phones besides ordering your products? How are you going to get it? Are you going to get them in the banking system through cell phones? How?
Well, we never know that we can grow so fast. In the past 5 months, we covered 4,500 villages. And these people, normally they use in very traditional way. It took them like we went to a rural area. It took the farmers 2 hours to walk to the downtown in the middle of the town and buy things. But today, because of the mobile phone, and we can deliver things to their home, to their village within 72 hours. I remember last week I read a very interesting news. This is amazing. There is a girl, she told me a story. She said her grandfather, 92 years old birthday. And for his life, he always wanted to try one Western style food. But he lived in the rural areas. There's no such restaurant food. So she said, I tried on the internet, book a restaurant dinner for Western food, delivered to that village. And they finally immediately find one restaurant. There are 3 guys. They took like a 3 days bus from Shanghai to that village, made an Italian spaghetti and a beef for them for this 92 years old birthday. And whole village was excited. Everybody said, wow, you can order food, Western style food. So buying almost everything. And also we're helping, there are a lot of farmers, they plant a lot of apples, great apples. But 90% of the apples rotted because there's nobody buy them. They normally buy by track. If you sell the apples, they sell whole track. And using the traditional way, they can sell by whole basket of the apples. But now, because of the internet, they sell by one. Each apple, they sell $1. or 1 RMB or 2 RMB for each. So the farmers see using internet, they can buy and sell using the mobile phone. That changed their lives. And I think it's exciting. And people need examples when they see, well, my neighbor made money through online, to selling things. My neighbor buy much interesting things online. People start to learn, and more people start to buy the mobile phones. We cannot make all the mobile factories to sell phones to them. Only they know the mobile phone really works, helping change their lives. They start to buy the mobile phones.
Just one more question. And then, do you think this will make the current problems like the current problem in China less likely? That is, if we'll have more market information and the market will drive where the investment goes, instead of the government trying to make judgments about, I better build another housing development or office development here, there, yonder, and you wound up with a bubble.
Well,
if it comes from the bottom up, is it more likely that fewer bad things will happen?
Yeah, Daniel, I think the last week I was in Seattle discussing about the China economy. I think you American people worry too much about the China economy. Well, you see, every time when you start to worry about China, China goes better. Every time you think China is in problem, we'll get better. But when you have to say, you have a high expectation of China, China always a problem. Like parents have the expectation of the kids, are the same. But there's a big difference between American consumption, because people say, well, the economy is bad, so China consumption will be good low. No, totally different. You Americans love to spend tomorrow's money. And the other people's money, maybe. Or maybe the children's money. We Chinese love to save money. We are probably the largest country, the safe deposit in the whole world because we've been poor for so many years. When we make money, we put in the banks, because someday we know the disaster is coming, so we can spend the money. So when the economy is bad, we still have the money to spend. You guys probably don't. You worry. And the second thing is China been focusing on developing for the past 30 years. China government so strong on investment, so strong on exporting, but they are too weak on the domestic consumptions. Domestic consumption is not driven by government, it's driven by entrepreneurship, driven by the market, not the government. So in the past 20 years, government is so strong. Now they're getting weak. It's our opportunity. It's our showtime to see the market economy, entrepreneurship, how we can develop the real consumption. I think if the China develop the great consumption, we have a 300 million middle class. In next 15 to 20 years, we're going to have 500 million middle class. We need to import a lot. So when we start to import, that's a great. I worry a lot when we export. When we export, we got a terrible sky, we have a terrible water, we have a terrible environment. When we start to import, we got to be better. So that's all the great opportunity, guys. Be happy about that. I'm serious.
I agree with that.
I'm serious. Yeah. Worry about yourself. Don't worry about the others.
The reason some of us worry about China is we depend on you to buy our debt. However, I tried to be more Chinese when I was president. I saved a lot of money, so
good. Good.
But I just wanted you to say that because I really believe that. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. The trend toward greater internal consumption I think, will remain unbroken in spite of whatever the difficulties are in the next few months. I think it's important not to overreact. You can't break the trend. You've got to clean up the land from chemical contaminants. You've got to clean up the air. You're going to do it. Yep. And a lot of Chinese will make a lot of money out of that. There'll be a lot of great new companies, and there'll be opportunities to import from other places.
Yeah.
So can you discuss your theory of what you're doing and other things in terms of whether it advances equal opportunity and social solidarity? Tell them what you think's going to happen. And what other kinds of, when your opening remarks, you just said technology is going to be active in this way in other areas of the economy. What do you think the next big opportunities are? But first, tell them just in 2 sentences what you're doing, because Jack and I know, and we haven't been clear enough. Explain it, and explain how you think that advances social solidarity and equality of opportunity.
Our work is in the belief that access to health information is a basic human right, and that lab information, particularly because lab data drives 70% of clinical decisions, needs to be accessible to people before they're sick. So if you look at the word diagnose in the dictionary today, it says to determine the presence of disease from symptoms, which means by definition, we're determining that people are sick once a disease has already progressed. And our work is in being able to make lab testing accessible to people in time for therapy to be effected, and to do that in a way in which every person, irrespective of their insurance status, irrespective of where they live, can afford the ability to get a test done. So that means, in our case, we've invested the last 12 years in now developing hundreds of tests, many of which are less than $10. So $2 tests in the United States. And I think one of the amazing things about this country is that we have such an incredible ecosystem for fueling creativity, and that creativity can create new markets. So in answer to your question about the market being able to conform itself to social good, I think the creativity that goes into creating these new technologies creates new markets in and of themselves. And our basic belief is that those new markets come from empowering individuals and enfranchising individuals and trusting that individuals have the capability to engage with information, and in accessing that information, beginning to take control of their own outcomes and their own health outcomes, and in doing so, changing the way our healthcare system works.
Think what this could mean for rural China,
Yeah.
for rural India, for Native American reservations
Yeah.
in America, for the Mississippi Delta, for the remote areas of where all the jobs were lost from coal. You're all of a sudden giving people information. And one of the most important things I think we did in my second term as president in the healthcare front was develop this diabetes self-care program. And all of a sudden, Jack's company could be delivering the means to self-care based on your test. I mean, I think that this is a very big deal. We all want to live as long and as well as we can. And Craig Venner was here. We were joking about whether we'd make it to 100. But in the meanwhile, you want to keep people healthy. And if they're sick, you want to intervene early, not late.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at, the ability to engage with this information, we have a $4 trillion healthcare problem in this country. 20% of it is type 2 diabetes, which is reversible. And we have 90 million Americans who do not know they are pre-diabetic. But access to information and the ability to engage with that information is the foundation for being able to change those outcomes and cost, right?
One more fact, and then I want to call on Jack. You founded this company 12 years ago, right? Yeah. Tell them how old you were.
I was 19.
Yeah. So, don't worry about the future. We're in good hands. So,
I always think about 19, where I am. 19, I've not passed the examination for university yet. I failed 3 times, but
I think it worked out.
I'm not good at schooling. Well, yeah, that's why I give confidence to a lot of young people in China. If Jack Ma can be successful, 80% of the people can be successful. People like her, we're jealous. Well, equality, I would like to make a little bit technology helping, because yesterday I was joining the UN Women Conference about gender equality. And I think the first technology revolution happened 200 years ago in the UK, released the human body, the arm, stronger. The second technology revolution in the USA for energy, you can last long. But this technology revolution release the brain. So this century is not a competition who is stronger, whose muscle is stronger. It's who is smarter, who is soft, who can listen. It's the